Welcome to Game Crunch, your weekly video game podcast. My name is Mike Anastasia. With me today we got Brandon.
Hello.
We're going to talk about games and things.
Games and things.
Yeah, things and games. Games and things. Actually, I think it's almost exclusively games today. So
I mean, there was the Pokemon Direct this morning also, and there was there's some news. Yeah.
But I mean, those are all game-related things.
Yeah.
Not like some random stuff that we have pop up from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyways, you ready to get started?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm good. Okay. I'm good. Let's do it.
We both have new things to talk about today.
I'll
go first, I guess.
Sure, that's I'm pulling up everything that was shown in the Nintendo Direct now, so we can talk about that, because I forgot Nintendo Direct was after last week's.
Yeah, it was just after.
Yeah.
I think it was the day after. So this week, I totally forgot that this was even coming out already, but the Splatoon 3 DLC came out this last week. The new one, I forgot.
Yay!
I'd order. Yeah, I don't think we really
You said it's a roguelike.
Yeah, it's a roguelike.
Mm-hmm. I'm actually kind of excited. I really want to play it now.
Yeah. So this was the single-player story-based DLC that they put out. So kind of the general premise of this thing is that you go to, I don't even remember what the other areas were from Splatoon. That's how much I care about the city. They're like I think of all of them as Inkopolis, but I know that's not actually what they're called. But anyways, I think you go back to the city from like Splatoon 2, or you think you are, and you go there and it's just like all white and colorless, and like nobody's there.
So I don't want to do this to you, but I do also want to do this to you. I think I guessed that this was going to be a roguelike when we first saw it. I think I did. Do you think you could check that for me?
Maybe if I had an idea as to when it was. I don't remember when it was announced. Yeah, we'd have to go back and through and see, because it should be the direct after it came out. We likely talked about it. So maybe not unreasonable. Let's see. If I have time, we'll try and squeeze it in. What was that? Yeah, so you end up in the old city from like Splatoon 2, and everything's white. And you're like, oh, something's weird here, whatever. But there's this big tower there, and you're like, okay, well, let me go see what's going on here. So that's how it starts. And basically what ends up happening was you find out there's something weird going on the tower. I'll leave that kind of stuff for you people who want to play it. Not that this is, honestly, even what I played is not super story heavy, so I don't think anyone would be like, oh my god. But yeah, so anyways, you go and explore the tower, and then through a series of events, kind of starts this roguelike kind of like sequence. So basically what happens is every time you start up, you get to pick what they call a palette, which kind of directs what standard weapon and what sub weapon you'll have. And then you walk into the elevator, and then you're presented with like a bunch of different options. And usually it's what kind of type of floor you're going to go to in terms of difficulty. So you're like, oh, do you want to do like an easy, normal, hard level? There's a higher difficulty, and I just don't remember what it's even called. There is something harder than hard. So that's there. And then, on top of that, each floor has, I think there's like 4 different types of challenges that you might get on each type of floor too. So it's either you'll have like these orbs that you have to destroy while they spawn enemies. You have like a splat zones kind of thing where you're kind of king of the hill, defending like a squared area. You have I forget what it's called in Splatoon, but it's like a mode where you kind of have to direct like a tower. You shoot it and it travels along like a track. So you have to do something like that. And then the last one is where is it? Oh, you have like these cue balls, and you have to get them into like their homes, like whatever their home area is. So there's that. So, and while you're doing that, there's all these enemies spawning around. So there's that. So that's one aspect of. So those are the kind of 2 of the things that you're picking as soon as you get in the area. And then the last thing is, so each challenge that's there has a chip associated with it, and these chips are like stat altering chips. So you'd be like, oh, this chip is going to increase your fire rate by 30%, or this chip is going to unlock new abilities for you have like a drone sidekick that kind of helps you out. So it'd be like, oh, the drone will have access to killer whale or to bombs, or it'd be like, oh, this chip will increase surface like painting by like 30% or whatever. So they have all these kind of different chips. There's probably, I'd guess, at least 30 to 40 different chips. I'm thinking off the top of my head. There's a bunch of different ones. So you can get access to each of them. And then they're stackable too. They can stack up to a certain amount of times. And then each one kind of like increases like the amount of effect. Like maybe the first one increases your attack by 30%, and the second one increases it, some more. So you keep on having like these increasing things. So you go and do the tower, you get as far as you can. If you die, then you get sent back down to the beginning again. And then you kind of start the process over. So you got that aspect of it. But then there's more on top of it too. Each palette has different like unlockable things to get. You can get like keys. There's like a bunch of lockers outside. Think like bus lockers, like airport lockers. Where you can go, if you get a key, you can use it to unlock one of the lockers, and it will give you something. Either like a new palette, maybe some behind the scenes kind of things. Like one of them's kind of like a diary kind of thing from one of the characters. So you get a bunch of those things. The other thing is, at the end, when you lose, the chips that you had, they're all cashed out and turned into a currency. And that currency you can use to kind of manipulate the game as well, more permanently. So those chips are only good for your current run. But then there's things that you can invest in with the currency that you get that make more permanent changes. Those permanent changes might be something like more continues, or more lives, or lower difficulty enemies spawning, or maybe you'll know what type of boss will spawn in a certain spot. Or maybe we'll make more vending machines. The game has vending machines where you can spend currency to get like new chips and new power-ups as well. So it's got a bunch of different like kind of features going on at the same time. So that's a lot of fun. I like the time that I've spent with this game so far. And I think it's a lot of fun. Definitely challenging. I've not gotten to the end yet. I think the highest I've gotten is maybe like floor 15, somewhere between 15 and 20. I think there's 30 floors total. I want to say 30. That sounds right. I think there's 30 floors with each kind of different things as you're going up. So there's that. So that's good. And there's a lot of different palettes. Each palette has its own unlockable things as well. So you can get like, oh, I got the keys playing through this one, but I didn't get the keys playing through this one, whatever. So, so getting different palettes will give you different rewards. So those things are all good. My only kind of reasonable complaint with it, I would say, is it can be a bit repetitive. Not necessarily, like, I don't feel like I'm seeing like the same stages over and over again, where I'm like, oh, I just did this. But I feel like a lot of them are similar enough challenge-wise that you're like, oh, I've done, a bunch of this type. Oh, there's one more type I forgot about. There's also these weird kind of swimming fish that you have to chase down sometimes too, kind of like hunt them down. That's another one of the challenge levels too. But yeah, so I would say if I had any complaint about it, I'd say occasionally it can be a bit repetitive. Like you can get a bunch of challenges in a row and you'd be like, well, I've done this one a few times. I don't know if I'm in the mood for it. And then also too, there's definitely some nuance to the kind of difficulty as well, which can be a bit frustrating. So sometimes you'll have those kind of, I said, those harder than hard level stages, which I don't remember what term they used to call them, but they can have certain kind of extra things tacked onto them too. Like they can be dangerous stages. Like I had one where it was a splat zone one, so I'm kind of like doing, kind of king of the hill kind of thing. But it was a danger zone on the highest difficulty, so that was, you had a shit ton of enemies coming. Then also it was 2 spawn areas and on different sides of the stages. So you're running back and forth because you're constantly not in control of the zones. And then on top of that, also in darkness, so you can't see enemies coming to the other ones. There definitely is no shortage of challenge, I will say. And then they also can have like bonuses too. Or like one of the bonuses I had was you get extra points for not taking damage. So if you go through without taking damage, you'll get bonus points. If you take any damage, and you start to reduce that total amount there. So overall, it's a lot of fun. I think that there's that. Complaints I kind of heard about it was, it can be a bit short for some people, like, and the repetitiveness. So there is that. And also, I guess depending on where you are in your Splatoon lifespan, it may or may not have rewards that are appealing to you. So, the gameplay is fun on its own, but it's not like, what was the excuse that someone I saw say? It's because you have those like lockers in Splatoon 3. They're like, who looks at their lockers anymore? People probably decorate them the way they wanted originally. And now that you have all this new stuff, a lot of people probably aren't going to be like, well, let me scrap it all for all these kind of new things that they have here. It didn't seem like the Octoling expansion where they're like, hey, here's a new race of characters, which really kind of mixes things up. So, yeah, there's that. I would say, at least in terms of, what you're getting and cost, like, and if you like Splatoon, you're probably going to get a lot of mileage out of it. If you're not a big Splatoon fan and don't really kind of maybe more on the multiplayer side of things instead of looking for some single player stuff to kind of muck around on, maybe you won't get as much mileage out of it. But I think it's fun. I think it mixes things up enough that it's enjoyable. And I think the roguelite kind of elements to it are interesting and definitely will give people reason to kind of experiment. Like I said, I don't reward wise, I don't know if there's a lot for people to come back and maybe 100% it, but definitely I would say interesting enough that people should come back and probably finish the story of it. So, yeah, that's what questions do you have?
Oh my goodness, I don't really know much to ask like question wise about this. I guess my main question would be like, how long do you think this will probably be? Like, how much content do you think we'll probably have here? Or does it feel like something that, like, because it's roguelike-ish, right? That, like, it could just go on forever? Or does it feel like something that could be, like, finite and actually have, like, an ending to the DLC?
So, I do think in terms of, I guess it depends on what you're playing for. If you're playing for rewards, there definitely is, like, a finite end. Like, there's only so many pallets. So, at some point you're going to get all the unlockables, like you're going to get all the keys and all that stuff, and you'll be like, well, nothing else for me to do here. So there's that. If you're just kind of looking to muck around and kind of play around with the elements, then you'll get more out of it there. But my guess is it's probably somewhere. I think most people, assuming that they're going to probably play through it for enjoyment and at least to kind of complete the story mode, I'd probably guess between 5 and 8 hours. But that's just, I don't have any like real data on it. It's just more me guessing based on what I think people would probably invest into it, like an average person. I've definitely seen people already like on Reddit that are like, yep, I've already beaten all of it, and I've already used all the pallets, and I've already unlocked everything. It doesn't seem like there's like a final surprise either. Like, hey, you did everything you can in this DLC. Here's a reward for unlocking everything. It doesn't seem like there's something like that. So I think there might be less draw for people to go beyond just finishing the story. But I would say I don't even know how much time I've put into it so far, really. I have to be somewhere close to the 5-hour range, maybe. So maybe it's probably longer than I'm estimating it to be.
Okay.
Like I said, I think I'm just estimating. I can't even guess. I can't even talk. Jesus. I think I'm just speculating based more on what I think people will put into it as opposed to what people actually will put into it. Because I think it's a bit longer than what I would expect it to be. And also too, probably the people who are in there, getting Splatoon 3 DLC probably are people who are going to invest more time into it. But I don't know, that's enjoyable. I think it's a lot of fun. And there's a lot of neat elements in there. So I don't know. Do you have any other questions?
No, I think that's good.
Okay. I think that's all I have to say about games I've played this week.
Okay. Well,
Mhm.
I've played quite a few this week, as you
I can
can probably see, right?
Mhm.
So is there any in particular to start with that you would like me to talk about?
No, why don't you just get Final Fantasy out of the way first? I feel like that's the big one.
I mean, Final Fantasy VII Remake is not new. This isn't the demo. This is a new
Oh.
thing. I'm playing through it with Katie right now.
Oh,
She
wait.
wants
This
to play
isn't the
Reaper.
new You're not playing the new
Nope,
one.
it's not out yet. It comes out on Thursday.
Oh, for some reason I thought it came out before your birthday.
Nope,
Oopsies,
comes out
not
after
paying
it.
attention to dates.
Yep.
I thought it was this month.
It is this month, on the 29th, the last day of this month.
Oh, it is Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Nope.
Yep.
I'm living in a different calendar to this month.
That's
apparently.
all right. I understand completely.
Okay. Well, that makes me. I don't care about Final Fantasy then. Fuck that game.
Well, the only reason I put it up here is because Katie hasn't played through the remake. So
yeah, I remember, and I think I even like off mentioned that when you guys were talking about it like a week or so ago.
Yeah. So me and her have been playing through that. We're on like chapter 10 right now, and there's 18 chapters. So I mean, we're gonna be able to finish it before Rebirth comes out. Pretty
Especially
easily.
if Katie has access to your time machine. You should be. You should be more than suitable.
We've done like fucking 4 chapters a day. It's not really that hard, so it's whatever. Yeah, we'll have that finished before Thursday. But I'll talk about some of the other games on here. So Helldivers 2. I had this gifted to me for my birthday, and I have to say, this game is absolutely excellent. So, have you like been looking at any stuff with Helldivers 2 or seeing any of the stuff on it or whatever?
Honestly, I really don't know anything about the game. I know people like it a lot.
So my first question to you is: have you ever seen Super Troopers?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Helldivers 2 in a nutshell, right? The way it works is I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say Super Troopers. Fuck, why the fuck am I saying that? The
Starship Troopers?
Starship Troopers. Why did I say Super Troopers? I guess because I've seen that recently. But anyway.
I was wondering.
No, I
rewatched. I really don't see Super Troopers.
No. I rewatched Super Troopers recently, and I have it on the brain. But anyway, no, Starship Troopers. So that
more fitting.
That's the one that makes way more sense because I fucked up there. My bad. But yeah, essentially, this is a online multiplayer game only, with up to 4 players co-op. You can play solo. Probably shouldn't. But there is a galaxy map, and in the map, you have all these different planets. And this game's kind of like evolving over time, which I think is super fucking cool. Because as more people play the game, more parts of the galaxy get opened up because you liberate more planets, which allows you to go deeper into the solar system, which is super fucking cool.
Okay.
So, like, as people have been playing this, more and more stuff has been happening. I could talk about a few things with it. So, you get dropped on a planet when you're actually in the gameplay aspect of it, and while you're on said planet, be it if you selected the left or right side of the galaxy map, you'll be fighting either bugs or automatons. It's easier to start fighting bugs first, basically. And your quests are going to be different things. Maybe like destroy certain research facilities and raise your flag on the planet to liberate it, that sort of thing. And you're fighting all these hordes of monsters that are coming at you as you're trying to do so. It's got a very patriotic feel to it, but it's definitely done in a tongue-in-cheek way, a lot like Starship Troopers. Because like even during like the tutorial, they're talking about how like everyone's basically expendable in the pursuit of democracy. So like at one point, like if you get blown up in the tutorial, it's like, that's okay, we'll get another one out there immediately. And, you know, there's just like very like nonchalant about people just straight up dying. And because there's so many just enemies on screen at once and there's so much shit going on, it feels like a fucking battlefield most of the time, and it's just really fun to play. It's one of those games that has a game feel of like one of those more fun and inventive games that you would play on like PS2, PS3, Xbox 360, something like that. It doesn't feel like the modern day bullshit that you deal with. It feels like the game was made just to be fun. And there's a lot going on there because of that. There's always friendly fire on, so you gotta be mindful of your surroundings and the people around you as well. And trust me, some people absolutely have a really hard time doing that. And essentially, when you drop on the planet, you liberate it, and then you get to your drop pod and go back to your main ship. Now, this game has a few other things that are quite interesting. In the game, while you're playing, you can find these like different places and different like drop pods that have been dropped on the planet before you got there, of like dead people or like drones or whatever. And sometimes inside of those, you'll get these galaxy credits. I think that's what they're called. And what that actually is the premium currency. You can actually get the premium currency in this game just by playing it, which then unlocks you more items and bigger abilities and stuff. And there is a battle pass system here, but there's also a very interesting take on the battle pass system here, and that is that it will never go away. It's not a timed battle pass. If you buy this game a year from now, you could still work on the battle pass that released day one, or any battle pass that you want at any point in time. Inside, the normal battle pass has like weapons and upgrades for your characters, be it armor or jetpacks or what have you, that sort of thing. Inside the premium, it's the same thing, but it just looks a little prettier. And those can be, the premium can be unlocked with the credits that you get just from playing the game, which is a very nice touch. There's some also very interesting things here called stratagems, which is where you're able to call down like reinforcements, for instance. So like if someone dies on your squad and you need to bring them back, you actually have to like put in a series of code, like say like up, down, down, left, right. So you have to hold a button and you have to input it. And then you get like a little grenade that you throw out, and then the grenade will call in back up from like the sky, and it'll drop in from like your mothership that you landed on the planet initially with, and you can call back in people that have died, and that's how you resurrect people in this game. You can also call in things like mechs, heavy artillery. You could set up turrets and walls and all this other shit. And it's very interesting the way that this game is built, and it's so much fun to play. So, yeah, this game's super fun. There are like alien nests and stuff where like you have to like throw grenades inside of them to like permanently destroy the nest, and it's just, the game's a really good time. It's been really enjoyable every single time I've played it.
It sounds like it's pretty interesting.
It definitely is. It definitely is. I would say you might need friends to play this one though, more so than anything, because the issue is, as you get further along in liberating the galaxy, the enemies get harder and harder and harder, and eventually you feel like you're in an all-out war, because like shit's just blowing up everywhere and everything's just flying around you, and it gets crazy by the end of it. So yeah,
lots of shenanigans.
Absolutely. And if you're playing with 4 people and they're all dropping down their turrets or this, that, and the other, and it's all going off at once, and you're trying to pay attention to your surroundings, you might miss that someone just threw a grenade in that area, and you are now blown up, and your legs are over on the right side of the map, and you're over on the left side of the map, and it's pretty crazy. It gets very hectic. It's very enjoyable when it does. So, yeah. I will talk about some other things now.
What are you going to talk about, Meow?
I know you just said Meow. Shut up. I see what you did there.
The shenanigans thing went over your head.
It did. I didn't realize it at the time. I was like, son of a bitch. Your Meow thing is what just set me off, where I realized what you were doing, and I'm just like, God damn it.
I was like, well, might as well turn it into a Super Troopers segment.
Exactly. So, yeah. Moving on, I'm going to talk about the Fortnite Festival Pass that came out, because that was an update that came out that I played quite a bit of. This is the next music pass, the Rock Band like game mode that I told you about before. I finished the entire thing in 3 days. It was so much fun. This season's pass is Lady Gaga.
Okay.
So, I had a lot of good songs there, like Edge of Glory, Rain on Me, Poker Face, the usual, Applause, that sort of thing. I played all of them. They were so much fun to play, and they were really enjoyable. And if you complete the pass, you get Gaga as a character in the game.
What? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so Lady Gaga can go Glock someone now on the Fortnite battlefield.
Whatever floats your boat, I suppose.
Yeah, I guess so. But yeah, all the songs played really well. I played them on like bass and guitar and drums and singing. Drums are my favorite when it comes to the Festival Pass. I played through the entire thing. There was another song in the Festival Pass that I was very surprised to see. And it was Nelly Ride With Me.
Okay.
And that was so much fun to play on drums. And just overall, the new Festival Pass was really enjoyable. I liked it a lot. I had a lot of fun playing it. Moving on, I also got as a gift from a friend a game called Deep Rock Galactic Survivor, which is a spin-off game of Deep Rock Galactic. Surprise, surprise. But it's a Vampire Survivor like.
Okay.
And it's very good. It's very, very good. So basically, you take all the elements of Deep Rock Galactic, which is rock and stone, digging out things, fighting off hordes of aliens, and drop pods, this, that, and the other. Pretty much copy and paste Helldivers in some respect there. But now it's a third-person, top-down Vampire Survivors clone. And I do think that the aesthetic, as well as where this game is set in the Deep Rock Galactic universe and everything, really leads to a very enjoyable time if you played the original. And if you haven't, I do think you could still find a lot here as a Survivors clone that it does different than your normal Vampire Survivors game. For instance, the way that you level up things is by accepting things every time you get your bar all the way to the max like you would in Vampire Survivors. But when you level up guns, they unlock certain perks, and the way you do that is every time you get to pick from something, you can be like, okay, well, I started with this starter assault rifle, and I've now got it to level 12, so now I get to pick whatever I want. And sometimes it might be change your ammo type to frost, so now you freeze enemies when you fire at them and that sort of thing, and it also slows them when they get hit if they don't completely freeze. And there's a lot of different things there going on, but this is a really fun game just to pop in and out of, as you would with any kind of Survivor like game. It can get super hectic. You really need to learn the map, which are randomly generated, but you need to learn the map and or at least learn a sort of way to get around the map, such as digging out caverns to avoid huge waves of enemies so that you can kind of kite them around and get behind them without getting killed by their gigantic, massive hordes. Because the entire screen can be full of enemies in this game. It is wild. It is way harder, I would say, than something like Vampire Survivors because of the fact that it just keeps throwing enemies at you. And it's very enjoyable. Lots of fun. Lots of fun to play this one, too. And then I guess the last thing that I will end up talking about is a little game called Pacific Drive, which I also got this as a gift. Surprise, surprise. This game has been a treat and something very special. Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and start talking about this game because I'm pretty sure that at some point this game is going to take off massively in popularity, and I'm just going to be one of the first people to talk about it right now.
Okay.
This game is, and I've played the demo of it. I kind of mentioned playing the demo before, but now the game is released and I've played it. This game is part car mechanic, part Shadow of Chernobyl, Stalker. It's a horror game. It's a survival game, and it's a racing game all in one. And I really dig this game. So the way it essentially works is when you start the game, you are driving, going to deliver something outside of this like big wall. The big wall is a walled off area in the world where something happened and now some weird shit's going on behind that wall, and no one goes there. You don't go to that place. You never go there. It's a bad place. You're taking the back alleys, essentially, to the back roads, essentially, to get to your destination, and your car gets shut off, and then you get sucked into this vortex. You wake up, and you are now inside that wall. You've now been put inside that area. And the plot is you trying to find a way out. There are these things that essentially possess people over time that have some kind of supernatural ability. They possess like objects or people or whatever, and then cause other people to become infatuated with them or feel like a general connection to them in some way, in a way where they feel like, hey, I can't live without this thing, and they become obsessed with it. And what happens is one of those things inhabits a car that you happen to find, and so the entire point of the game is to use this car that you are now basically attached to. You like kind of have to continuously rebuild and make the car better and that sort of thing in order to get out of this walled in area. Inside this area are these like alien like crafts that will like grab you while you're in your car and like drag you around, but they'll also like find you if you get out on foot and do this, that, and the other, make too much noise. And this game really messes with you because, for instance, you may be driving somewhere, but then like the ground just shoots up from underneath you and like sends you flying into the air, or like things manifest in front of you because the world is constantly changing when you're out driving, because it's you versus the elements, because the supernatural thing is the actual roads that you are on, is the actual place that you're in. It is trying to get rid of you because it sees you as an outside threat. And while you're playing this game, the general thing that you're supposed to be doing is going from point A to point B, scavenging goods so that you can create stuff to try to find a way to escape out of this place, all while the place that you're trapped inside of is constantly evolving and changing over time in a way that's trying to keep you like away, like not allow you to do that and keep you stuck here forever and just get rid of you, essentially. So the world itself is trying to kill you, more or less. And this game's super fucking cool. There's all these elements such as like you can create like things where you can tear down pieces of equipment or old scrap cars and whatnot as you're like traveling from area to area. You can like rebuild your engine and make it faster, do this, that, and the other. And it's just, this game is so weird, and there's always so much new and interesting things every time you go out that it gets more, it evolves the more you play it. And I don't really know where we're going or what exactly is going on or what happened to this place per se. It's supposedly like nuclear stuff, which has caused, you know, all these anomalies and whatnot. But what exactly these anomalies are, why I hear like footsteps and stuff and like don't see any people inside this place, but it feels like you're constantly being watched, why all of this stuff is going on per se and why it's going on to you, it isn't really explained, but the game will tell you more over time as you're playing it. And it's like super fucking cool because the general gameplay loop is you have a garage that you found is like a safe haven, that sort of thing. And as you go out, you get items by breaking down things that you find around, and you could like build antennas that help you find where these anomalies are to try to find special items in those anomalies so that you can get out and so that you can build better equipment for your car. And it's the gameplay loop is you continuously going out to different areas in this weird and foreign world and attempting to find the things that you need to help yourself survive in it and eventually escape. And you have like the ability to craft things in the back of your car. Like you have like a workbench basically, and you have this cutter that you can create, which allows you to break down the different parts and whatnot. And you have this like advanced navigation system that might be alive that's telling you how to and where you should go to try to find these goods and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then you also have this world that's constantly trying to kill you and constantly fucking with you, whether it be like sounds that you're hearing when you're out scavenging, or whether it actually be like things like hellfire storms and all this other stuff. And you don't really know what's going on, and you find out more as you play, which I think is super interesting. So, yeah, it's a really good game. It's very different from, I think, any kind of survival game I've ever played, and it's super cool.
Yeah, I get that vibe from it. It seems like it's very different. Sure.
And yeah, that's basically what I've played. I played quite a few things, but yeah, that's all I got to say about what I've played.
Okay. One more thing before news. I keep forgetting to talk about it. Not super exciting, but it's game related. I got the last Smash amiibo. That finally came out. Because Sora's available now, so that's all set. I haven't done anything with it. It's still in its package, but I got it. All the amiibos are done. And then the Xenoblade 3 amiibos came out as well. They all look really nice. But at least it's kind of nice to have the Smash set done. It's been, okay. I think this year's the 10-year anniversary for amiibo. As hard as that is to believe. So yeah, it's just kind of wild that journey's over. So
yeah, my friend also finished his collection because he's only been collecting Smash Brothers amiibos since it came out, and he got his as well. So
yeah, I think there's a lot of people in that, but I think a lot of people were really just like that Smash collection. That's really their big thing. So interestingly, IGN just put out an article where they're like, "What's the future of amiibo? Is Nintendo still going to do something with it?" And while we don't know anything about any future amiibo at this point, the Xenoblade 3 and Sora amiibos are the last announced ones. They speculated that Nintendo was going to keep moving forward with it. So reason being that because amiibos are such a fundamental part of their amusement parks that it seems unlikely for them to scrap such an investment while they're still actively opening parks. Because those wristbands that they use, those are all amiibos. So they're like, and I think they even have 2 new ones coming out this year. Like I don't remember who it was, like maybe Daisy and Diddy Kong.
Okay.
I would say something like that. Yeah. But no, I'm just kind of wild. It was a big thing to finish that up. So I was kind of like, oh, I can't believe I forgot about this. So, yeah. There's ready to move on to news.
Yeah.
Okay. Now we got 2 Nintendo presentations to talk about.
We do.
I'll start with the Pokemon one first because that was today, and I don't have to open up anything to talk about it.
Yeah, because there's really not that much to talk about.
No, there really wasn't anything. I watched, so it's possible I could have missed something because I had it on mute with subtitles when I watched it, but I really don't think I missed anything. It didn't seem like, most of the presentation, it was only about 12 minutes long. Most of the presentation, like 95%, was just kind of updates to stuff that's already out. Like, oh, hey, this is coming to Pokemon Sleep. Oh, this is coming to Pokemon Cafe. If you play the games, you probably care. But otherwise, you likely don't. Those were not very exciting updates. They're like, oh, Riku's coming to Pokemon Sleep. Cool. All right. Yeah. So that was most of it. So the 2 kind of more exciting things, and there's really just one really exciting announcement, but some people might be more excited for this.
I actually like the other one.
The trading card game?
Yeah, I love that because of you said you watched it on mute. I like the idea of it because essentially it's like Pokemon Go, but you can actually play the card game as well. And each day you're able to open 2 free packs, which I think is super fucking cool because like you get the with this, you would get that feeling of like, oh, cool, what kind of Pokemon card pack am I going to get today? But you're not spending $4.98 per pack to get that feeling. And I like the idea of having interactive cards where you could see what the artist's plans were for the card if you could look inside them, which this game does, which they showed off in one of the previews. So they like showed off a full art Pokemon card, and you were able to like hold down, and then like you were able to zoom into the card and actually see like the overall world that the card was built around, and it was super neat the way it was.
Oh, that is really neat. Yeah, no, I definitely did not see that.
Yeah, it was super cool.
I did like how they it's probably just like a really dumb thing, and it's very gotcha like.
Card trading was super cool too. Like you can just elect to trade cards with someone that's also on their phone that has like a card, and you guys just initiate it by like swiping a card forward, like you're actually handing a card to each other. And I thought that was actually super cool as well.
Yeah, I did like what I was saying though is I like how they had like the interaction just to kind of even open the packs. Mm-hmm. Like it looked kind of like a dumb little thing, but it definitely seemed like it was more personable than some of those kind of gotcha things.
Yeah, so, and like I said, the fact that you get 2 free packs a day, that's super neat. So
yeah, I think my only thing with it was I just didn't really, and it could just be just because from the trailer or whatever, just didn't really show. It showed like a lot of the card stuff and a lot of the kind of like interaction stuff, but didn't really show a lot of the gameplay stuff, which I wanted to see more about, like how it actually looked playing it.
But so they did show like one battle essentially in the trailer, and it honestly just looked like the Pokemon trading card game digital version that we have right now. And it's like, okay, if that's what it is, but then you've got all these extra added little features, that's totally fine, because it would 2 things. One, I like collecting cards because I like the art, and I like the idea of having the interactive art where you can see more than just what's on the card in front of you, and like you can actually interact with it. That's super fucking cool. I like that element of it. What I don't like is the perceived rarity in a way that as a physical item, if you were to buy it and you don't get like the cool looking card that you want, or like there might be some really cool looking card that you want, but it's like fucking $300-$500. I would rather have that perceived rarity be on a digital good that I could then interact with as well, and like be like, hey, look at this is fucking cool. You know what I mean? So and not have to pay $500, just have to try to open up a pack and see if I get it the exact same way I would if I was buying it physically. But now it's not tied to a $5 price point and potentially $500 price point if you don't get it. You know what I mean?
Oh, I'm sure they're expecting whales on this fucking thing.
Oh, absolutely. but I'm not going to do that. So
no, I don't. I would expect most people wouldn't. It kind of makes you wonder too. Like, what are they going to charge for these packs? Is it going to be the same cost?
Honestly, probably $5. I would be surprised if it isn't.
Yeah, me too. Which is scary. But hey, whatever. People want to spend it. That's their money. It's not my job. So I'll probably try the game and see. It's interesting enough. So
yeah, definitely
looks good enough. So is that. But I don't know. The big excitement for me was definitely the other announcement. The kind of let's just kind of dump this at the end of the show and not really. So they put out a trailer for Pokemon Legends ZA. I don't even know how to pronounce it. Z to A. I'm not even sure what they're going there for. So new Pokemon Legends game is coming. I think that this really signifies that Nintendo must have executed all the leakers, because ain't nobody came close to this. Like this was, I think a lot of people speculated a Legends game because it's been 3 years since the last one's come out.
Yeah.
And it sold really well, so you figured like, oh, it makes sense to have that team move over to the new one. Okay, got it. But everyone was like, it's gonna be like, Unova, it's gonna be black and white, spinoff. And it's not. It's not at all. So it's a Pokemon X and Y spinoff set in I don't even know how to say it, Lumiose City. And interestingly, on Nintendo's tweet today, it said the game is set entirely within the city. So we don't know much. The trailer didn't really show much, so not really sure how that's going to play out. Like if there's going to be different biomes. There's some speculation that the trailer talks about a city kind of like rejuvenation planning or whatever. So it might have something to do with that. They did say too, based on kind of what you can pick and see out of the trailer, it seems like it's set more in a modern time as opposed to kind of the old times like Pokemon Legends, Arceus. But that kind of makes sense too, for that setting because it was a lot about Dialga and Palkia and their like time and space, control stuff. So having to travel back in time for them makes more sense as opposed to, Zygarde or, whatever they're going to end up doing with those things. So that all is interesting. Also, too, I think, just kind of speculation wise, that generation of Pokemon's pretty interesting. There's a lot of stuff there to explore through. I was just looking through a list of stuff from Cerebi from like Pokemon wise from that generation. A lot of stuff I did not remember about that game. It's been a while. Because Pokemon X and Y, if you remember, that's one generation where they also gave you like the Gen 1 starters. So you probably expect to have those in there along with the new starters. So that's exciting. Also, too, I forgot I had like the legendary birds in it. Mewtwo were in it. Are those all going to be in there? I don't know. And it has a bunch of legendaries too. It's because it's got like Deontay, Volcanion,
Mega Evolutions also, which also showed at the very, very end of the trailer too.
Yeah, and people have been losing their minds about Mega Evolutions for a few years now. So the fact that they're returning, I think a lot of people, at least outwardly, seem to be pretty excited about it. So I think it's pretty interesting. Also be interesting too to see if they use this as an opportunity to build on it. I personally, I think, between, Mega Evolutions and I don't know what was the next gen had Z moves and then Gigantamax and then like the Terra battle. I feel like the Mega Evolutions, at least to me, were kind of the most interesting gameplay mechanic out of the set that they've done already. So hopefully they'll do something interesting with this. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw maybe some new Mega Evolution forms. So there's kind of that kind of stuff. So it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. This is going to be worldwide simultaneous release in 2025. I'm kind of wondering if this is going to be more, maybe this will be the last Switch hurrah and come out like right before the next Switch comes out. But who knows?
So I have a theory for this one.
Yeah.
Simultaneous release worldwide, aren't they already simultaneous releases worldwide?
I think they pointed out because they didn't always used to be. It's new just from the last couple generations.
I think that's bullshit cover our ass lingo, and the simultaneous part is releasing on the original Switch and the successor at the same time. I think that's what that actually means.
I think it's just about localization.
I don't think it is.
I think that's all it is.
I don't think so. I think honestly, they're just covering their ass.
I honestly, because of how the Pokemon Company is, I honestly would be surprised if this had its own Switch 2 SKU. I think that this will end up just being a Switch original game because they are the slowest to embrace technology and they have such a difficult time moving up each generation. But we'll see. We'll know soon enough. Like I imagine we'll be bombarded with this game this year quite a bit. But I don't know. I think it's optimistic to think that they're going to do two systems at the same time when they can barely handle a single Switch release. Has Pokemon ever done like a cross-platform release before? The closest I could think of when I was thinking of it earlier was Mystery Dungeon. Like the first one, they did a DS and a Game Boy SKU, but they tried to pretend that they were different enough. I think that's the closest.
Yeah, I think that's as close as this.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see what they do. Because I was thinking about it too, because I was like, well, maybe it's a Switch 2 game. But if I remember, it had a Switch logo specifically at the beginning. So I don't think they'll skip the platform. But I said the cynical part of me thinks that they'll just be like, yeah, we suck at making games, so we're just going to stick with the one system. Because I'm also thinking too, they'll probably do a January release, like with the last one, and then Switch 2 will probably come out in the spring. I think they'll kind of sneak it in just right at the finish line. Use it as a carrot.
It's going to come out the day the original Switch came out.
No. The Pokemon Legends.
Oh, okay. Well, I was thinking maybe it'd be a launch title, and then like when Switch 2 comes out, like that'll be. You never mind. It doesn't matter. What I was trying to say.
If they're making it for both platforms, they probably will,
mm-hmm.
and that would be like a huge launch day thing for them.
Mm-hmm.
Be a huge driver if it is. I think my
just
thing
like
is
they used Zelda to launch the Switch.
I think my problem is I just have no faith in the Pokemon Company to get this, to embrace a new platform, because they're always so slow at going to new platforms too. Like they take their sweet time. So, for example, like the Switch came out on March 3rd, 2017. And then like Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon came out in November 2017. So
hey, hold on. Okay, yeah, okay. Yeah, I guess you're right. That makes sense.
So even for something that they, like in that case, you would have thought they would have had plenty of time to kind of target new systems if they wanted to, but they didn't. Although if you remember, I guess kind of devil's advocate, there was a rumor that there was another version of that game that was Switch specific. So who knows? I mean, at that point, everything got leaked Pokemon wise, so it could have very well been like a legitimate addition, or at least something that had gotten through some phase of production, even if it was just like planning. But yeah, so I don't know. We'll find out. We'll know soon.
Okay.
Do you have any other thoughts on Pokemon?
No, nothing really.
All right.
I didn't want to talk about the other Nintendo Direct we got though.
Yeah. There was some. Wasn't horrible.
I thought it was fine. I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, I didn't think it was too bad. Surprisingly, the thing I think I'm most excited for is Epic Mickey. I don't know why.
Wow. Okay, that's a wild one. Okay.
Yeah, it was very strange. And I was not expecting a remake or remaster, but I was just thinking about this game the other day, and I don't even know why. Like before the direct came out, it had crossed my mind for some reason, and I was like, "Oh, it'd be an interesting game to go back and revisit." And no, I guess I have a reason to.
Well, the thing I'm most excited for was one of my predictions was true.
Which one?
Shin Megami Tensei 5 on everything as well as the Switch.
Oh yeah, I feel like that's a very, very predictable prediction too, though.
Yes, but I'm just so happy I can actually play the game now.
Is it out on everything? I mean? When does it come out on everything?
Let me look, because it's on Steam and it's on my wish list. Give me a second. Oh. June 21st.
Okay, so not terribly far away.
Yeah. So I really wanted to play this game on the Switch when it first came out, but it ran like absolute dog shit. It still runs like dog shit, and the Switch runs like dog shit, so I don't trust it. So I'm not gonna play the new one on the Switch. I'll just play it on either PC or like PS5 or Xbox or something, depending on where it's best to play it at. We opened this direct with Grounded, the first Xbox title making its way to Nintendo Switch.
Oh yeah.
So that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Boy, did it look like hot ass, like graphics wise. Did not look good, but I understand because this is the Switch. But Grounded is a very good game. If you've not played Grounded and you like things like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, you should definitely check out Grounded. It's very enjoyable. And it does, even though it is one of those survival crafting games, it does have an overarching story, which is worth checking out.
Okay. Yeah, and Pentament's also coming as well.
It came the same day it released, literally that day on the Switch.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, go on.
Oh, no, I was going to say, and so I think, too, we talked about Hi-Fi Rush jumping to PlayStation, but there's also a rumor that the other two games are supposedly, well, maybe not the other two, at least Hi-Fi Rush is probably still coming to Nintendo platforms as well.
Okay.
Just it's going to be the next Switch. So.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. I'm gonna go through the ones that aren't interesting, or I don't have much to say about, fairly quickly. I'll just mention them though. After Grounded, we saw Ender Magnolia, which is the sequel to Ender Lilies, which is a very good Souls-like / like Metroidvania game. Definitely excited for that one, but I don't really have much to say about it. I think A Ranger is the next one, where it's a puzzle game where the enemies move when you move, and the way you move your character is by moving the world underneath them. That seemed pretty interesting, like a neat concept for a game. That's cool. We then got an announcement of a demo for Unicorn Overlord, which released that day. And if you haven't checked out Unicorn Overlord, you definitely should. It is a vanillaware game made by Atlas, and it looks awesome. So
yeah, at first as I saw it, I was like, oh, is this another game from the Octopath Traveler team? And I was like, wait, no, this is Sega published. I'm like, that's not them.
no, it's the same people that made Dragon's Crown and God help me, what is that other game called that's so fucking good? Odin Sphere. So
oh yeah. They definitely stole the name generator that Square's been using now.
Oh yeah.
Because I'm like, what the fuck is this name? I'm like, I don't understand it. I think that's another reason why I thought it was the same team. It's like, oh, it's kind of that, interesting, 2D, 3D gameplay style, and then name that makes no sense. It's like, yep, no, it's got to be the same group, but no, definitely a different thing. I did not try the demo. Did you?
I have not, but I've seen some people playing it, and I'm probably just gonna pick it up when it comes out because I love vanillaware.
Okay.
Moving on. Monster Hunter Stories is getting re-released on the Switch now.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that too. That was also exciting.
That's pretty cool. Then this is the one you said you're the most excited about. Epic Mickey rebrushed. What makes you the most excited for this one? Out of curiosity.
I think it was just the biggest surprise for me. It was a game that I was like tepidly. Well, like I said, I had just been thinking about it for whatever reason, maybe like within the last couple weeks. So it had been on my mind, and then the fact that it kind of came up, I was like, oh, it was a decent game. I don't remember how decent, but I remember playing through it, beating it, and liking kind of the general concept of it, and like the I thought the kind of art style aesthetic that they went with was pretty interesting. I also met the guy who made this game, Warren Spector.
Wait, hold. Oh, neat.
Yeah.
When?
One of the GameStop conferences I was at, they had him there.
I see.
It was for this game in specific. I think I have something. I had him sign something. I don't remember what.
So, have you played the originals?
The original what?
Like Epic Mickey 2. Have you played them?
The first one, yes, not the second one. I said the first one. I seem to remember it being a decent game. I don't remember how decent. I just remember being decent. Okay. Like, oh, this is an interesting game. I think it had some issues like with the camera and stuff that I recall. The paint mechanics and stuff, that was kind of cool. Like I said, I really kind of loved the rundown kind of Disney World aesthetic that they kind of did. And if I remember too, it was kind of steampunky as well, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
It had a really cool art style, interesting gameplay, like mechanic. Like I said, it had a little bit of issues, but it definitely could be polished up. So I think it would be one of those ones where I'd be like interested to kind of see, how it ends up pulling out. But I said I liked it, so I was kind of excited to see it in action. It's not a game that I imagined getting a remake.
No, I don't think I did either, honestly.
Yeah, so it was just a very kind of nice, pleasant surprise. So
I wonder what's rebrushed about it. Is it just a remake, or is there extra stuff? That's what I'm curious about. Because I don't think they said anything.
I don't think they have. Actually, even the article I'm kind of glancing at right now, they're kind of like, don't know. They're like, the only thing we know is the graphics have been polished up. So yeah, I guess that's unknown at this point.
Yeah, okay. All right. Because, there was a lot of stuff left on the cutting room floor for that game. Like, a lot. Like, I saw, like, a whole hour-long, like, video talking about it, so...
Yeah, I knew there was a bunch of stuff. I don't know how much of that ended up getting repurposed for the second game, because sometimes that happens.
And a lot of it got left on the cutting room floor because it was too dark, and Disney said no.
Oh, I did read an interesting article about kind of, like, the darkness. So, the one thing they were saying with this one, though... I don't know. I think it was a quote maybe from Warren Spector himself where they were talking about it because they were like, he was kind of talking about, I don't know, negotiating with Disney, basically. And he's like, look, I know a lot of people see all this like artwork and be like, where is this in the game? And it's not there. And he's like, this stuff was never intended for this game. He's like, look, this is how you deal with Disney. You come out to them with like, this is me paraphrasing. This is not his actual quote for the record, but he basically goes, you go to Disney with like your darkest shit, and then they'll come back and obviously they'll say no, and then you just keep like lightly stripping layers away of darkness until they finally like concede. Because he was like, I felt like if we had done a back and forth or came at it, from lighthearted and pushing into darkness, he's like, you never would have gotten away with as much. But because we went so dark and we're slowly pulling it back, we kind of figured out what their maximum cutoff level was, and we're able to work with that instead of like starting too light and then trying to get darker afterwards. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it was interesting. I was like, that. I guess that makes a lot of sense when you're trying to work with someone else's IP. You're trying to go with like something different. If you had started too conservatively, you may not have even gotten close to what you wanted to do. But by starting dark and just kind of, because eventually too, like you feel like it's also kind of that breath of fresh air kind of thing where they're like, oh, thank God they didn't, go as dark this time. This is much better. So I think that was kind of some of their thing too. But it'll be interesting to see what ends up coming from it. I don't think there'll be extra new content in it. It sounds like it's a different studio that's doing it, but it'll be interesting to see. Hopefully, some quality of life improvements, fix up the graphics. So that's what I'm hoping for.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Moving on, the next thing was Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance, which I actually saw the video Atlas put out after this. They said Vengeance takes place about 80 hours into the campaign of the original game and is about a 60-hour extra campaign.
Oh, good.
So, you're getting a lot of content there for this new game. You get the entire original. Game. Yep, basically. So that's what we get there. And that's going to all platforms. So Switch, Xbox, PS5, and PC. All are going to be able to play that game, which is awesome. The next one, and this one is actually the one that I was the most surprised by and actually very excited to play, is Star Wars Battlefront Classic Collection.
Oh, a lot of people are psyched for that.
I love the original Battlefront games. They were fucking awesome. And the fact that this is going to have online multiplayer, and it's not just releasing on Switch, but everywhere, is super cool. Because those original games were fucking awesome. And having a would this be remaster? Because it's not a remake. It's just a remaster.
Yeah, I would say remaster.
Of the original two games on modern day consoles with online multiplayer. That's fucking awesome. I'm super excited for that. So, yeah. I believe it is $40, so $20 for each game, basically. But you can't split them up because they're together in one. But
yeah, it's a bundle.
I think that's fine.
Yeah. It says it includes new characters and maps, too. So
That's good.
Yeah. So maybe even a little bit more than just your run-of-the-mill remaster.
Next is South Park Snow Day, which was a MOBA in the South Park universe with online multiplayer and yada 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 blah blah blah. Yeah, this is kind of cool, but I also don't really care because it's a MOBA, and MOBAs are have been dead for like 7 years.
Yeah.
So, moving on from that, new Sword Art Online, whatever, doesn't matter. Gundam game, Gundam Breaker, which the Breaker series of Gundam is one model where you play as model Gundams, like you actually play as toys, and I think that's actually like a super cool idea. So, yeah, like you can defeat other Gundams and break off like their arm pieces and like rebuild yours with them and stuff like that. I think that's super neat. But yeah, the Breaker series has always been hit and miss, so it will depend on if this one's done by a good team or not, and as to if this is actually a good game. New Monkey Ball.
Yeah.
So got new Monkey Ball, and it looks like there's gonna be like a fucking similar to like F-Zero 99 and all those 99 kind of games modes in Monkey Ball with like up to 100 online players and some kind of survival mode, which is kind of cool. So that's neat.
Yeah.
World of Goo 2, if you remember World of Goo from the original Wii, that game was very fun. Yeah. And then Fantasy Life I, The Girl Who Steals Time. Cool game. These games are actually very fun to play. If you've never played them, this is probably a good place to start. I love Another Crab's Treasure. I've already played the demo of this. It is a Souls-like where instead of losing your souls, you actually lose your crab shell and you have to replace it with other ones. But other crab shells give you different abilities to fight enemies with.
I feel like we've talked about this game.
Very funny game. Very enjoyable. Yeah, this comes out in April, which looks very good.
April 25.
Yeah, Penny's Big Breakaway. I want to buy this. I haven't played this yet, but I will probably have played this before the end of the year because this is made by the Sonic Mania team. It's a 3D platformer.
I've heard just wait for patches.
But is that with console or is it everywhere? I wonder.
Everywhere.
Okay.
I was just reading I saw something specifically about the Switch one yesterday.
So good.
Yeah, so apparently it just has some major collision issues. So the video I saw for it yesterday was on the Switch, and the guy just was like walking, and it just like falls right through the floor into oblivion. And in the comments, someone was like, "Is it like this on PC?" And they're like, "Yeah, maybe not as bad, but it still has the same issues. Wait for patches." So yeah, that
game
was
has
their
bugs
advice.
galore. It's mostly positive on Steam. Yep. Okay. Yeah, I'll wait for patches. But yeah, this is a game that looks really fun. Like
it looks good. Like it's a shame that it needs some patches, but
yeah,
it happens.
Suika game. This game is very fun. I've been playing it. They added DLC to it, which was in the future going to add multiplayer, but right now has a head-to-head mode similar to like Tetris Attack. Super cool. Pepper Grinder, a game by Devolver Digital, so I automatically have to buy it. I love everything by Devolver Digital, and they also released a demo. The Pocket Card Jockey, On, which is exactly what we talked about. The one that was released on Apple Arcade, brought to Switch.
Yeah, so rumor was real.
Yep.
Looks nice, though. I don't know. I like the art style for that game. I don't know why. It's cheap.
I like it, too.
But I like it now.
Then we had like a little like thing where it showed a bunch of games at once, basically. We got new Contra. It showed like a whole bunch of other games here, but I think the new Contra game kind of stood out in my opinion. So, yeah. Kingdom Come Deliverance was also in that, which is really weird because I don't fucking think you could play Kingdom Come on a fucking Switch.
I've seen that comment a lot, and everyone's like, I don't know how this works. I've not seen any feedback on it. I don't know.
I don't think it's out yet,
right? Yeah. I don't know. Every once in a while, there's a company that just can get devil magic going. So
I don't think they'd be able to pull it off with this. It's gonna have to be like worse than Witcher 3 was. So yeah, I don't foresee this going well. Pentiment released day and date with the Nintendo Direct, which a lot of people have been enjoying apparently. So that game was offered a new life now that it's not on Xbox.
Yeah, that's strange because it's like poster child. Like we were just talking about this game like 3 weeks ago. 4 weeks ago, before this whole Microsoft thing, when just randomly showed up out of nowhere for me because I had not heard of it before, and now all of a sudden it's like, oh, this is the game that could use this, and there it is. Yeah, it needs it. I think I had it to my wish list already. I'll wait, but because I mean, really, I could just play it right now if I really wanted to turn on my Xbox, but that's too much work. So, but yeah, it looks good. I actually do want to legitimately play that game.
Nice. Yeah, so I'm gonna break this next part down 2 different ways because it's actually kind of funny. I don't know if you saw this. So the next part was basically and one more surprise when they had their 2 more surprises. But their first surprise was a bunch of rare games coming to the US Nintendo Switch Online, showing off things such as Battletoads, Blast Cores, Killer Instinct, RC Pro AM, that sort of thing. And they all released that day, which was kind of neat.
Yeah.
Do you know what happened in Japan?
I do, because you told me, but...
Yeah, it's fucking hilarious. So this part was not in the Japanese Direct. Instead, in the Japanese Direct, they announced that Mother 3 is being added to the Nintendo Switch Online right now. So there is a port of Mother 3 on the Japan Nintendo Switch now. Officially, which is fucking hilarious to me.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I don't know why they don't want America to have that game, but they really don't want America to have that game.
I think they're so afraid to walk into that water that they're like, well, maybe if we pretend it doesn't exist, it will just go away again. and then probably put a very firm like no Earthbound characters in the next Smash Brothers like decree. Like do not reference these characters ever again. They're dead to us.
So let's talk about the final little thing, which we talked about before, the Endless Ocean.
Yeah.
The Endless Ocean Luminous, I believe is what it's called.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So we talked about how they could, make another Endless Ocean sequel, and I think they actually sold me on it very quickly.
Yeah?
Yeah, having online play with 30 other players, that's fucking cool as shit. I love that idea.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
Yeah, online multiplayer with 30 players in the Endless Ocean, exploration and adventuring. I think that's so neat. I was sold the second I saw that. I was like, okay, yep, you got me. Because I love things to do with the ocean. Like, I love Subnautica. Subnautica is a great game. I really like Raft, which is also a great game. And the fact that Endless Ocean is more of like a chill out kind of game, like a vibe kind of game. I think just vibing with some friends in the ocean with up to 30 people is a super neat idea.
Oh yeah.
So
I think I want to say one of the Wii ones even had like 2-player multiplayer.
They might have.
Yeah.
It went from not being really on my radar to like jumping up pretty high because of this announcement. So
yeah, people are pretty excited about it.
Yeah, me too, honestly. It looked super neat.
When does it come out? Do you remember?
It might say it in the video. Let me give it a check. May 2nd. So this is not very far away, actually.
No, not at all. Oh, speaking of, and actually, there's one thing that I was surprised. Actually, this is a good place to interject. There's one thing I was surprised that we did not see in this Direct, which in retrospect, I didn't think about it when we were talking about predictions. Afterwards, I was like, oh, we'll probably see that, and then it wasn't there. That Beyond Good and Evil remaster, anniversary. It's supposed to come out this year. B, obviously, it is a partners game, so it makes sense. C, supposedly somewhere it's lurking around with like a March 5th release date, which I feel like if it's coming out next week, we probably would know. But
yeah, definitely.
Like if you Google it, like that's what comes up as the release date. So, or at least it did last week when I checked. I'm not typing it in right now. But yeah, I was like, you just feel like they would just, even if it was just in the, the montage reel at the end. Did we have any? Was there any Ubisoft games?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so, which is strange. So maybe Ubisoft just didn't feel like doing it. I don't know. But it is kind of now I'm thinking about it. It's kind of odd that there's just not any Ubisoft games there. Like, I feel like they would have just thrown something in there, but who knows? Yeah, no, I agree with you though. I don't think it was a bad Direct. I think it was, there's definitely something for everyone there. I think the only people who probably were disappointed were ones who were like expecting something that wouldn't have been there anyways. Like, where's my Metroids? Well, your Metroids are not going to be in this Direct, so I don't know what you're looking for. But yeah, I think that was good. Do you have any other thoughts on that Direct?
No, not really. I thought it was a pretty decent Direct.
Yeah, definitely lots of stuff there. I added lots of stuff. So I started doing, I found a new place to do wish lists for, to keep a little bit better track of things. So I've been adding a lot of things to that from this Direct already. I think I added 4 or 5 things the other day afterwards. So yeah, definitely a bunch of things that are interesting. So.
Yeah, I thought they had some pretty decent things there. Mm-hmm. A lot of them just became wish listed on other platforms.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You ready to move on to the rest of the news?
Yes, I think there's quite a bit more here to talk about.
Yeah, Sony lays off 900 people,
shuts down an entire studio, and cancels some games.
Did you get like confirmation on the studios? I was just looking through rumors, and I had just
London studio has been shut down completely. I'm gonna do a double check, but what I'm seeing is London.
Because I was just reading something, and they were saying that most of the cuts were between London Studios and Media Molecule, but they weren't sure if either of them was shut down.
So what I had read, hold on, let me double check. Give me 1 second, right? In addition to cuts in the US and Japan, the gaming giant said that this would mean closing PlayStation's London studio entirely. In a blog post sharing an email sent to employees, boss Jim Ryan called the move sad news and said that it was a difficult day in our company. We have concluded that tough decisions have been inevitable, he said. The leadership team and I made an incredibly difficult decision to restructure operations, which regrettably includes reduction of our workforce, impacting many talented individuals. This is being reported by the BBC.
I could see IGN reported the studios being closed too.
Yeah. And that is actually the people that were working on their PSVR 2 games. So that would mean that they pretty much are giving up on PSVR 2 very quickly.
What? No, it seemed like such a sound investment. I'm very shocked.
Yeah, I know. How on earth could something fail that cost more than the console you have to buy to play it on?
Yeah, with no real support from its publishers and the developers and insane cost and a closed network.
Surprise Pikachu face.
Yeah.
But also, there's the other information that came about that I'll throw that, because you just said closed network. That's the funny thing. Sony also announced that they'll be bringing PSVR 2 to PC.
Oh, well, that's
so no longer closed, but probably because of this. That's the reason why they're doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
they're like, we spent all this money on this R&D. Maybe we can recoup some of it by PC.
So here's the thing. Here's the thing. This is also, these layoffs are going to both Insomniac and Naughty Dog games as well. So like two of their big main branches, they're doing layoffs, and that's kind of wild to me because they've talked them up so much and how important everyone is in those two companies, and they're laying off people there as well, which is kind of crazy. Just in my opinion. So yeah. I feel like, right, this shows more than ever, and I'm going to talk about this just in general. I'm going to read out a few things real quick. Microsoft laid off 1,900 people. Sony laid off 900. Unity Software laid off 1,800 people. Twitch laid off 500. Riot Games, 530. Discord dropped 130. Metaverse dropped 70. Black Forest Games, 50. Eidos Montreal, 97. Sega of America, 61. Supermassive Games, 90. I feel that what's going on right now is they overinflated studios with workers during the pandemic to get out product, and now it's coming back to bite them in the ass. And they're having to drop people from all these studios across the board because they hired so many during the times when it was, work from home sort of deal. And we're seeing this happen to more and more studios, like every single day. We're getting information, at least when it comes to the gaming industry and the technology industry in general.
Yeah.
I do feel like this is the effect of that happening, and this is going to continue to happen within all of these like kind of technology / gaming studios, at least for like the next year.
Well, some of it, at least on Microsoft and Sony's part, the other studios don't necessarily fall into this category that you mentioned, but like Microsoft and Sony specifically, like I think a lot of these layoffs are them like actually, so because they had, just like you said, they had acquired pretty much all of these assets during the pandemic.
Yes.
So I think a lot of this is them being like, oh, we probably should have, adjusted these team sizes earlier. Yeah.
Things are just overinflated right now. There's just the budgets for games, $300 million for Spider-Man 2. Like, what the fuck are you doing?
You're never gonna make that money back.
Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. The prices of games right now are through the roof, and the answer is not to charge more for games, but to make smaller experiences, or when it comes to the budget, you know what I'm saying? Like, look at Helldivers 2. That motherfucker was doing so well that for like days the servers were unable to be used, and people were just like, we understand, and they worked around the clock to get it fixed and whatnot, and it made it a better game once they finally did. And it's one of their highest like rated Sony games essentially, and that came from a smaller studio, I think a less than 100 people, and it came with a very small budget compared to everything else they do, and it's making more money than those other games did easily.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And turning a profit, like a pretty sizable one. I think what we're going to see end up happening with every studio. I don't think it'll happen with Nintendo again, because Nintendo's going to be the holdover, as they always are. But I do think that Day and Date is 100% coming with parity to, at least for now, PC. But I do think in the future we will see all games like across each platform. So like, you know, how Microsoft has already been started by putting their games out. I do think Sony, in order to stay in this business with these ridiculous, massive, you know, prices that they have for titles, they're going to have to put them on PC the first day. Like, so say Spider-Man 3 comes out, it would release the same day on PC, and you wouldn't be waiting those months or years like we've had to in the past now. And we've also seen that coming to fruition already. Helldivers 2 released on PC the same exact day. So, and then on top of that, you've got other games that are releasing closer and closer to the original release date, similar to you know, Horizon for Forbidden West. It released 6 months after the like DLC and everything came out on PC, which will be in like a few weeks right now. So it's getting closer and closer each and every time. And I do think because of how much they're spending on games, it'll start releasing at the same time. Especially when you look at the profits that things like Helldivers 2 made, because they released Day and Date with PC. So I think that's coming.
Yeah, I think it's something. I think, you know, on Nintendo's side too, you know, they kind of have a few other things kind of softening or making them less, what's the word I'm looking for? Less,
like less prone to this sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, prone was the other word I was reaching for too. Yeah, because, you know, you think about it, they have a couple of they didn't make like any really wild acquisitions during the last couple of years.
You know what I think is the biggest reason why they're not susceptible to this? Because mobile gaming in Japan is like the number one leading kind of gaming. And you've got the Switch, which is essentially a mobile console. So they're just continuously printing money with that. Because if it isn't mobile phones, they've got a mobile handheld right there. Yeah. So I think that is essentially something that's keeping Nintendo afloat, as well as their main, you know, titles. But even then, if you look at their main titles, a lot of those have dropped off in quality. So, you know.
I mean, I would say Nintendo, though, you know, they're always about trying to make products that hold their value as well. And I think that it's also advantageous for them in some ways that, you know, they're not being like, oh, hey guys, you know, if you sign up for NSO, you get Splatoon 3 for free. You know, they're still trying to incentivize people to go back. And I mean, what, Animal Crossing New Horizons is 4 years old and still $60. You know, same thing with pretty much Breath of the Wild. You know, the game is what, 7 years old now? Is that right? Yeah. 7.
Yeah, I think so. 7 does sound about right. That was what,
it came out in March of this year. Yeah. Well, it would be 7 years in March of this year.
Yeah.
2017 to 2024. Still $60. Still seems to surprisingly sell very well. And you know, you have other stuff too, you know, kind of even their lesser investments like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Like that game's just disgusting in terms of how much money that game's printed.
It's still sold more than the Nintendo Switch, hasn't it?
I don't think more than the system.
It did for a while there. Like, quite literally, it was the leading seller on the Switch and sold more copies than the Nintendo Switch.
Oh. Yeah, I think it's below it now, but it's still it's like just absolutely sickening up. I think I saw something recently and it said it was the best-selling Mario game of all time.
That makes sense.
Or at least in that like top tier, if it was not the top, because you think it's just been just like wildfire. So there's kind of that, but you think about it, you know, like Microsoft, you know, if you thought of like an equivalent game on that system, you know, they're not selling it for $60. You know, they're probably giving it away. So just kind of where that income, that long-term revenue is coming from too, is also probably helping Nintendo kind of do that. But I also don't think they overinflate their studio sizes either. I think they keep theirs a bit smaller. Because you don't ever, at least not that I can recall, you never hear about layoffs from Nintendo. Nothing significant. So,
and the only time we have, they literally had the guy apologize and then take a fucking pay cut because of it. Do you recall that?
I remember doing that for the Wii U disaster.
Yeah, you know what? You're right. I think it wasn't even layoffs. I think he took a pay cut so they didn't have to have layoffs, if I remember correctly now.
Yes, that is my memory of it. Yeah, he did the pay cut so they wouldn't have to, which is just wild. Because then you see stuff like, what was it I saw today? Someone from a news story about the one of like the CEO of one of the train systems that derailed. They're like, oh, like X amount of layoffs, but I'm also giving myself a $90 million bonus. Okay,
fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, that's craziness. But yeah, so I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. I do agree with you though. I think a lot of these layoffs were necessary. I think they just kind of let themselves balloon too much.
Mm-hmm.
I do also agree with the FTC that with Microsoft being like, we literally just went through all this litigation to make sure that you were buying these studios in good faith. Then you turn around and lay off like a decent portion of staff is kind of crazy.
Yeah, that's so I believe it was 9% for Xbox of like all their entire Xbox studio staff, that sort of thing.
Sony's 8%. I just saw
Sony is 8%. Yeah, but Sony has a smaller staff, more or less.
Smaller overall number.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So.
Yeah. So I don't know. Interesting.
It's fucking crazy. It's just fucking crazy.
I just it boggles my mind. You think about something like Microsoft spent $65 billion on Activision. Or Sony spent I don't remember how much it was. I know it was way too much money for Bungie. So I think I want to say they did like $8 billion for it or something.
I was gonna say $7 billion, but yeah,
it was somewhere in that ballpark. And I was like, that's way too much for Destiny.
Wild.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Any other news stuff you had?
No, it's crazy shit going on right now. Basically, games industry is in a fucking nosedive right now.
I think this is just kind of more of a, we've seen these cycles before. The kind of it's that thing where it's like, when did they do it? They did it a bunch. I want to say like GameCube era, where like everyone was going around running up, doing acquisitions, and merging. Like that was that time frame. And then everyone did it, and then they got too big. Then there's all the layoffs. The layoffs all splintered off into smaller studios, and then then they turn into big studios again, which get acquired and laid off. It's just another part of the cycle. So on the flip side, as horrible as this is for the people being laid off, it probably will mean a few years down the road, a lot of these creative people will probably get together in new ways and come up with new and interesting things, and I think good will eventually come out of it. But it just kind of I don't even know where that number is after everything you read off. It has to be close to 5,000 people, somewhere between 3,000 and 5,000 between everyone.
It's very, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, it's like defeating. It's like very upsetting, like reading all this shit. It's like absolute garbage because all these people are having all this awful shit happen to them, and it's just not right.
Yeah, I agree. At least they didn't do it right before the holidays.
I guess.
Nice thing. B, and at least as far as we know, they didn't trick them into being laid off. So those stories are always the worst too, where they're like, "Hey everyone, great work. We're all gonna go to the amusement park today." And while you're at the amusement park, they're like chaining the doors and cleaning out everyone's desks. I don't remember which studio that happened to. That one was pretty hellish. So hopefully these people rebound fast, and hopefully, like I said, I imagine that, like I said, times that we've seen this before, people rebound pretty quickly. Well, not all of them, but some of them do. The ones that want to go back into making games and aren't completely turned off by this, and you get some pretty nice games out of it. So could end up being a good thing somewhere eventually. But yeah, no, I agree. It's pretty tragic. And then all this at the same time from all these studios. You think about it too. If all these studios are laying off, it's not like, if you're in Washington, you just be like, oh, let me just walk down to the next studio and work.
Yeah, and like we have several reports of people that like moved to studios, and then they just get laid off after like ending their entire life and moving somewhere for a job, and it's just it's terrible. We had those people with was it Bethesda or was it no, I don't think it was Bethesda. I don't remember what company it was, but they like put out a whole report on this one guy. He like upended his whole life, moved to a place, and then like they didn't pay him and strung him along and like kept him basically locked in the office at all times.
Oh.
With how much work they had given him, and like held over his head that like, hey, you can leave, but I mean your job might be, affected in some way if you were to leave early. But they just kept piling on work to keep him there, more or less, with the threat of, you're not gonna, your job might be affected if you don't work on this sort of thing. I wish I could remember what the fuck it was that this happened with. I like read the entire like report that the guy put out, and it was fucking awful.
Yeah. Not games related, but I did just read a thing where, what was it? Someone was hired by Twitter when Musk was taking over, and he got hired, and then like Musk finished the acquisition and like cleared house, as you may recall. He did. He like laid off like a very significant, laid off or let go a very significant amount of Twitter because a lot of them didn't want to return to the office, and But anyways, so this guy was saying like him. Well, how do I put this? So he was hired, and then immediately his supervisor, their supervisor, and like their entire department was just leveled. Like, does not exist anymore, has no like function, like not even a part of that business anymore, like erased. So then he's like, hey, I'm here to start. And they're like, who are you? They don't know who he is. And he's just like, yes, I've been working for Twitter for like a year now. Nobody knows who I am, what I do. I don't do anything. He's like, I don't do what I was hired for. It's like, it's just mind-boggling to me. It's like, I ask people what to do and nobody knows my role and I just have nothing. And I was like, oh, I mean, I guess it's good because you're getting paid, but it's kind of mind-boggling. It's that kind of wasting businesses where it comes back and bites people later.
Oh my god, I just forgot about this. The one major announcement from the cancellation of the Sony stuff and everything. Yeah. I got so upset about this one. They canceled a new Twisted Metal game.
I did read that.
So upset. Like, I saw that it would supposedly be a live service title, but at the end of the day, if you like think about it, it's like, yeah, that kind of makes sense for a Twisted Metal game, and I don't think it would be potentially bad. And I would have really enjoyed playing that because like Twisted Metal is an excellent series.
Yeah, and it seems like it's ripe for a new one anyways. It sounds like
I mean, we literally have the TV show was great. It was really fun. So I don't know, man. It's really hard to be excited for things when shit like this is happening.
Don't worry, Brandon. We got Princess Peach Showtime coming. We don't need any other games.
I mean, I got Final Fantasy Rebirth in like a few days, but it's very upsetting.
Yeah. Like I said, hopefully everyone rebounds quickly. Hopefully, businesses get their shit together so they don't have to do this again for a very, very long time.
The studio behind Forza trying to poach some of the people from Sony London already. I was like, oh, yeah. They're like, I wouldn't necessarily say poach since, they don't have a job anymore, but like, they offered people that were working at Sony London a job if they got fired today.
Yeah. So. And it's poach is probably not necessarily the wrong word though too, because you got to feel like, I mean, realistically, there's probably other studios.
They're taking advantage of the situation, but like at the same time, it's also mutually exclusive for the two of them to be able to, both have a job and for them to be able to pick up more people to help work on something and get those talented people in there working with them.
How can they even have it? Microsoft just laid off 1,900 people. How could they have a couple positions open?
Listen, I have no idea. I don't have an answer to that. I don't know why, but I'm just saying that's what I saw today.
Gary got laid off. We don't like him, but we want someone else from Sony. Any other news to talk about?
I don't think so. I think that's a lot of stuff there.
Yeah, it was pretty busy last week.
Supposedly, and I'm not 100% sure, but this is rumor. There might be a demo for Dragon's Dogma 2 Friday, but we don't know.
Oh, I think I just saw that rumor too, as well. I think of that literally just before. Yeah, saying Dragon's Dogma, but it's from someone who has like no leaking history. So, who knows? Yeah, as of Friday's not that long to wait, so you'll know by the time this episode's up. All right. Anything else?
Yeah, I think that's it. I think that is absolutely it.
Okay. Well, let's wrap it up then.
All right.
Thank you, everyone, for listening to us tonight. Don't forget to find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Amazon, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. Also, game-crunch.com. All the old episodes are there. If you want to reach out to us, you can email us at gamecrunchcast@gmail.com. Brandon?
Yep.
Any final thoughts?
No. I have nothing.
Okay. On my end of things, my name is Mike Anastasia. You can find me online. I'm Clash of Penguin. There or on your favorite gaming console. And until next week, game on.
Game
on.
I played Deep Rock Galactic Survivor, which is awesome. Am I stupid?
What?
No, that is right. I wrote Galactic, and the word to me just didn't look right. You know, like.
Oh yeah, it's so wild when that happens.
I was like sitting here. I was like, did I spell that wrong? And I'm like, no, that's the way that word
sounding
looks.
It out. Like
yeah, exactly. I was like, that's because I'm like galaxy. And I'm like, there's an X, and I'm like, galactic. I'm like, no, there's no X, but like, it looks weird. I don't know.
No, I know exactly what you're talking about. 100%. I do that often. Then I'll like Google it, be like, was this right? Like, yep. I'm okay.
It's some of the things I'm just gonna like, sneak on past you and talk very little about, but some of this I have like a lot to say about. Like the Fortnite Festival pass, which is fucking incredible. They I'll talk about that. Oh god, it was so fun. That's one of the things I streamed a lot. I got DMCA on
really?
Because of it. Yeah.
For what? The music? Or
Yep.
just streaming in general? Oh.
The music.
Dumb.
Yeah, I didn't get any strike though. They just muted my audio, but it's like whatever.
Yeah. At least it's like a reasonable kind of
They don't mute your audio while you're streaming it either. It's just muted on the video. So like
so like on replays?
Yeah, on replays. So like you can't hear it. But I mean, if I wanted to like upload the actual original audio, I can still download that video because the audio is not muted in the download. So then I could like download it and upload it somewhere else, which I did. But yeah, we'll talk about that. So I'm ready whenever you are.
I'm ready.
All right, cool.